let's talk a little bit about Carlos Sainz.
Okay.
What's up with him? Because it seemed like last year at Ferrari, he was brilliant. He was super consistent. He was taking the fight to Leclerc. He beat Leclerc, I think, throughout the season, and he finished ahead in the championship. Not by much, but
Initially, he was the number one driver at Ferrari.
yeah,
It was expected that he was going to be number
yeah,
one. Like for example, that Leclerc would be Rubens Barrichello to Sainz's Michael Schumacher,
yeah.
and that is definitely been reversed.
Yeah, I wonder what's going on with him because in Bahrain, he finished second, and then in the post-race interviews, he was talking about how it was a frustrating weekend for him. And I'm like,
hmm
"Why? You finished second." Well, it's because he was consistently behind Leclerc throughout the entire
Yeah,
weekend, and that stayed
yeah,
the case in Saudi Arabia, and then this weekend was a mess. But like I get the impression that he's putting a whole lot of pressure on himself, thinking that he needs to outperform Leclerc, which obviously any driver's number one competitor is their teammate. But
I think there's a possibility that Leclerc is a more gifted driver,
he
and
is. I
Sainz
think he
simply
is.
didn't. Well, if that's the case, then results like now today is not indicative of what Sainz is capable of. His car must have had some
Oh,
sort of a problem.
absolutely. Yeah.
But in general, I think, and he's going to win races. I'm sure he'll win a race this year at some point.
Yeah.
Sainz will, but overall, I think Leclerc is giving him a run for his money. Now, Leclerc is he's in a really interesting honeymoon period where everything is going his way right
Yeah.
now. And will that last? Time will tell.
Yeah. True.
But if it does, and that's the test of a true driver, because the more you win, the more you're expected to win. And so
True.
instead of being, hey, we're Ferrari, we've been struggling for years and now we're on top and I'm the guy on the podium, it's going to be like, okay, hey, we got to keep going. We could win the constructors championship. We can win, you're leading in the drivers championship. We got to keep this going. That brings in a different set of psychology to the driver himself. It's
True.
instead of thinking about winning races and how to attack each corner, in the back of his mind, he knows there's added pressure.
Yeah.
So how he deals with that, if he can compartmentalize that, which I'm sure he can to a large degree, but those are the things that go through my mind that I need that will wait and see how different people do handle that. For example, my opinion, I think there's a question as to how well Daniel Ricciardo can
Yeah.
handle that type of pressure.
But
He
yeah,
left
as
Red Bull. Why did he leave Red Bull? It didn't make
yeah,
sense. So,
I think
but
that's a topic for another time because we could talk
yeah,
about
yeah,
that a lot.
it is. But I'm just making a quick comparison. I think I don't. Well, I think right now there's no reason to believe that Leclerc is not extremely strong and he's going to stay there.
Yeah.
If you put a good car under him, I think he has the ability to develop into a continue to develop into a very exciting
Yeah.
winning driver.
Definitely. So I see signs as looking at last year going, I did better than Leclerc last year throughout the year. I should be
Yep.
doing better than him now and putting a lot
Yes.
of pressure on himself and getting into his own head and consequently getting in his own way. And he's making unforced errors, which is not typical of him. He's maybe the most consistent driver on the entire field. The
Yeah.
guy, like, that may be another video is the most consistent drivers in the field. And I think he's top three for sure, without question. He might be number one. And so to see this kind of thing happen this weekend, very, very, very uncharacteristic of him. And
You're saying that Sainz is the top driver as a
as
or
in
just
forms
this
of
last weekend,
consistency,
even more than Verstappen, even more
uh,
than Hamilton.
that's a discussion for another time. I think he's up there with them. I think he's up there with them.
I
Um,
don't. Yeah, we'll see. I don't see it that way, but I'm willing to be proven wrong on that.
yeah, well, that's a topic for another time. But
Yeah. I
regardless,
mean, these
he's
guys. Yeah.
one of the most consistent people in the field,
hmm
and so to see this happen is very uncharacteristic of him. And I think it's because he's just psyching himself out. And I would love to see him take a page out of Perez's book, not in resigning himself to the number two driver necessarily, but in the sense of I just have a job to do. Let me just chill out and do the best I can and not sit
Yes.
there and freak out about having to beat his teammate.
Yeah. Yeah. He's got to, you have to be able to handle failure in this
Yeah.
business. You got to put it behind you and forget about it. It's like
Yes.
a crash.
Yeah.
If you have a bad crash, you need to say,
Yep.
okay, you need to forget about it.
Once you're out of the hospital from your precautionary checks, you forget it happened.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I'm a lifelong motorcyclist. You know that.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, but and there's plenty of times where you see other guys in accidents, or guys in accidents, or you have a close call yourself. And
Mhm.
the bottom line is, you have two choices. You either just go, okay, nothing happened, I'm good to go, or you quit riding.
Yeah.
And if you want to keep riding, you have to put it behind
Yeah. Yeah.
and it's just the way it is, and that's what it takes. And with drivers, it takes that ability to shake off not only crashes, but you have to shake off poor results
Yeah.
for a while. And what he has to do is not internalize it, like you said, not take it personally, not think it reflects on his character. And honestly, that's a lesson we all have to learn in life. There are times where all of us as human beings go through a series of failures, and we start to question our own character, our own
Yeah.
abilities, and we think, is this who I am I this guy now? And honestly, one of the keys to becoming a successful human being is to have faith in who you are, even if you go through a string of failures, and realize that often we all learn more from mistakes than we learn from our successes. So hopefully Sainz will do that, and he'll come out on top and give Leclerc a run for his money and everybody else
Yeah.
at that point in time.
Very, very well said. Last thing
Thank you.
about him, though, has this weekend, do you think this weekend has secured him as the number 2 at Ferrari? Or do you think he still has a shot of being seen as an equal or clawing back a number 1 type of position?
Well, there's 21 races this season. This is number
Something
3.
like, yeah,
Yeah. So I don't. You're saying this is science? Is he squarely in number 2 right now? He is number 2,
yeah,
and that's just a fact of life. If he wants to not be number 2, he needs to start winning races.
true,
Bottom line,
true.
and the thing about Ferrari, there is something about Ferrari as a team that I can tell you from watching them for decades. They support whoever's winning, and the second you're not that guy, you are number 2, and they don't have
That
any
is
problems
very
hurting
true.
it. And they don't have any problems hurting anybody's feelings. Let's put it this way: Ferrari fired Michael Schumacher. Need I say more? And it probably had to happen. Look
I
at the
forgot about
guys that
that.
are current. Look, you know, look at the guys that have been through Ferrari over the
Yeah,
decades. All the great drivers wind up wearing red. It's some Kimi Raikkonen, Fernando Alonso,
yeah,
Rubens Barrichello. These guys that were
Vettel, yeah.
amazing. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Sebastian Vettel, perfect, 4-time world champ. Is he there now? Nope. He's
Nope.
with Aston Martin.
Yeah, F1 as a whole is a very much a not what have you done, but it's what have you done for me lately. And
Yeah,
Ferrari is the poster child of that.
yeah, yeah. They're like Spock from Star Trek.
Yeah.
They just look at numbers. They have
Yeah.
no emotional attachment really when it comes to who's number 1 and number 2.
Yeah.
So if Sainz starts performing and he does better than Leclerc, then they'll champion him as his number 1 until he's
Yeah.
not doing it, and they'll forget that they'll just put him in number 2.
Yeah.
So they're really tough that way,
Yeah.
but it's a tough game.